Welcome to A Century of Cinema. Today I will be exploring my favourite films of 1935. First up is A Tale of Two Cities, adapted from Charles Dickens' novel and directed by Jack Conway. In Paris, revolution is at hand. A long-time prisoner, Dr. Manette, is finally released and reunited with his now adult daughter, Lucy. She then takes him to her home in London. They are accompanied by Charles Darnay, the nephew of the despicable Marquis de Saint-Evremond, Basil Rathbone giving a masterclass in how to portray a foppish, narcissistic aristocrat. The young and idealistic Darnay is completely at odds with his uncle, politically, rejecting the supposed superiority of the aristocracy and championing the cause of the people. On the journey to England, Charles and Lucy develop an attraction to one another. Soon after arriving in London, Charles is put on trial for treason having been set up by Evremond. With the help of lawyer Sidney Carton, Ronald Colman in her beautifully nuanced and affecting performance, he is acquitted. Sidney meets Lucy and is immediately taken with her. Already nearly constantly drunk, Sidney despairs at the fact that Lucy is clearly in love with Charles, and even, to his regret, confessing to Charles a measure of disdain for the young man, though he admits it is due to nothing more than his jealousy.
Change places with him. Would you have been looked at by those blue eyes as he was?
Oh, come on, Carton, you're jealous. Have it out in plain words, you hate the fellow.
The French Revolution then begins in earnest, with the assassination of the Marquis. A leading figure of the revolution is Madame de Foch, whose bloodlust for aristocrats seems boundless. Not satisfied with just the aristocracy, anyone even slightly affiliated with them is to be sent to the guillotine, including servants. They use a servant of the Marquis, who attempted to use his position to vainly attempt to influence the Marquis toward better treatment of the people and a friend of Charles, to lure Charles back to Paris for execution. He arrives to find his friend dead and himself immediately arrested. The Manettes, including Charles' now wife Lucy and their young daughter, travel to Paris, so Dr. Manette can speak up for him. At the trial, after Manette seems to have persuaded the people to pardon him, Madame Lafarge leaps up and furiously demands for Charles' execution. Her bloodlust is infectious, and Charles is convicted. Sidney then comes up with a way to help him, or more specifically to help Lucy by freeing Charles. Sidney takes Charles' place in the cell, knowing full well it will cost him his life. For the most part, this is a standard yet above average 1930s period drama. Well shot, excellent costume and production design, and a sweeping score. However, what makes this stand out for me is the character of Sidney Carton and his portrayal by Ronald Colman. From the first moment we see him, it is evident that he is carrying deep despair and loneliness. He is an excellent lawyer, but has nothing else in his life. It is in sacrifice that he eventually finds his purpose. My favourite scenes in the film come at the very end, when Sidney, awaiting execution, befriends a young seamstress, a brief but sweet and compelling performance by Isabelle Jewell, who is also headed for the guillotine. He protects her from being overwhelmed by her own terror, and they make each other's last moments of life something more than the horror of their end. Ronald Colman as Sidney Carton in A Tale of Two Cities is my choice for Best Actor of 1935. Dangerous, directed by Alfred E. Green and written by Laird Doyle, is probably best known for being the film that gave Bette Davis her first Oscar. Bette plays Joyce Heath, a former Broadway star whose fortunes changed dramatically after a series of calamities befell the productions with which she was involved. She was written off as a jinx and crawled inside a bottle. She is recognised by Don, played by Franchot Tone, who is grateful to her because a performance of hers inspired him to change his life for the better. When she passes out drunk after they meet, he takes her to his house in the country to recover and hopefully dry out. After a couple of tantrums, she consents to stay and rest for a while. Don returns to the city for work, and his fiancée Gail, played by Margaret Lindsay. An interesting thing about Margaret Lindsay, I've actually only ever seen her play the part of the sane, reasonable alternative to Bette Davis. I know she has done other things, but as yet I have not seen them. Anyway, Don at this point is happy with Gail. It is not until he returns to Joyce that things get complicated. When he arrives, it is apparent that Joyce is attracted to him, and as the evening continues, Don's defences erode. After a night of passion, or as much as Hays Code era movies will allow to be implied, Don has regrets and tries to explain his situation to Joyce, who then laughs at him, insisting that it was all nothing more than a joke to her. But as soon as Don leaves, she bursts into tears. Unable to get back to the city due to a road closure, Don returns to find Joyce crying, and she admits to truly loving him.
But last night was mine, and I made it ugly this morning. And I don't want you to think of it that way.
Don then confesses his own feelings, confused as they may be, then returns to the city to end things with Gail. Don is now driven to resuscitate Joyce's career and puts up his own money so Joyce can play her dream role, a role which the producer agrees is perfect for her. Naturally it is, and the play is destined to be a surefire hit. However, trouble arises when Don confronts Joyce about why she keeps refusing to marry him. Unbeknownst to Don, Joyce is already married to Gordon, who stubbornly refuses to divorce her, no matter how awfully she treats him.
Every time I think that those soft, sticky hands of yours ever touched me, it makes me sick. Sick, do you hear? You're everything that's repulsive to me. Your wife. I've never been a wife to you, you poor simpering fool. If you had any pride, if you were a man instead of a drooling milksop, you'd throw me out and be ashamed to admit that you'd ever married me.
Joyce then decides that there is no other alternative but to take extreme measures to be rid of Gordon. However, all she succeeds in doing is creating a scandal and torpedoing the play. Yet upon losing everything, Joyce resolves to salvage what she can by doing the right thing by everyone. Letting Don go, but saving his investment by making the play happen again, and finally sticking by her husband. This is one of my all-time favourite Bette Davis performances. Joyce is unstable yet tender, frantic yet warm. She is dangerous, both in the sense that Joyce is a dangerous woman to love, and that Bette Davis is this movie. So, for the second year in a row, my choice for Best Actress is the incomparable Bette Davis. My final film for 1935 is Alfred Hitchcock's The 39 Steps. Based on John Buchan's novel, this is one of Hitchcock's best early thrillers. Robert Donat plays Richard Hannay, a Canadian in London who, after watching a performance by a man called Mr. Memory, which is evacuated after a gunshot rings out, meets a mysterious woman named Annabella. She asks Richard to take her home, and he finds out that she is being pursued by spies who are trying to smuggle British military secrets out of the country. She is then murdered in his room. Richard takes what he learned from Annabella and follows her map to Scotland in an attempt to uncover the plot, save himself, and clear his name. Along the way, he hides at the home of a Scottish couple, where the young wife helps him escape, while the curmudgeonly older husband betrays him to the police. Annabella's map leads him to the home of Professor Jordan, who turns out to be the head of the spy ring. After narrowly escaping with his life, Richard goes to the police, now that he has some evidence to back up his story. However, the police chief is friends with Jordan and delivers Richard back to the spies. He escapes again, and while hiding at a political rally, where he is mistaken for a guest speaker, he meets Pamela, played by Madeleine Carroll, who had previously turned him in while on the train to Scotland. He attempts to tell her what's happening, but she turns him in again. However, this time the spies know that Richard has told her what's going on, so they take her too. In the car with the spies, Richard and Pamela are handcuffed together, but manage to escape their captors and take refuge in a nearby inn, posing as newlyweds, much to Pamela's chagrin. While Richard sleeps, Pamela slips out of her handcuffs, and, still not believing Richard's assertions, starts to leave. But before she makes it downstairs, she overhears the spies on the phone at the front desk of the inn confirming Richard's story. She returns to Richard and helps him uncover the plot. The climax finds Richard back at a Mr. Memory performance. The 39 Steps is a tense, beautifully paced thriller with witty dialogue and excellent performances all round, particularly from Donna and Carol, whose banter and bickering is one of my favourite aspects of the film, as is the stylistic brilliance of Alfred Hitchcock. Again and again, even at this relatively early stage of his career, he demonstrates why he will become renowned as the master of suspense. Give a filmmaker like that a snappy, taut, witty script and charming, talented actors like Donna and Carol, and you naturally get a genuinely great film. So, The 39 Steps is my choice for Best Director, Alfred Hitchcock, Best Screenplay for Charles Bennett and Ian Hay, based on John Buchan's novel, and Best Picture of 1935. Join me next time on A Century of Cinema, when I will be discussing my favourite films of 1936. Now, go watch a movie.